And good evening, everyone. We are live on Crowdcast, and I'm going to take one moment here really quick to go live on Facebook as well. And I just hit go live over on that side. So we're going to be getting started here in just one moment for the Dispatchers Roundtable Round 4. And we're live on Facebook as well. All right, so here we go. We have got everything here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like a bunch of people are joining us already, and they're speaking in the comments and all, so this is excellent. And if you are watching currently right now on Facebook, make sure that you end up going to the link that I'm about to put in the comments here on Facebook, because everything on Facebook, all the comments on Facebook are not going to be monitored at all. And it looks like some people are coming up on Facebook right now too. But again, comments on Facebook are not going to be monitored. Make sure to hit this link here as I'm going to enter, and you can get registered because you can view on Facebook, but you will be able to actually join in the discussion here on Crowdcast. Also, if you're here on Crowdcast right now, when we started getting into everything here, please make sure to use the Ask a Question feature. And if you have a similar question, you can always go ahead and upvote that question, and we will get to those at the end. So we're going to go ahead and start with the intro music. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Dispatchers Roundtable. Oh, yeah. Once again, this is the Dispatchers Roundtable, and this is going to be round 4. And we have got an excellent episode tonight. So for everyone, again, who is on Facebook, make sure to jump over to the link so that you can register in and join in the discussion over here, because the comments are not going to be monitored over on Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests here, and then just kind of go over what we're going to be doing tonight. There are 2 very powerful stories that you're going to hear about. And my first guest is both good friends of mine. And so we've got Nathan Lee, the president of the Denise and Kari Foundation, as well as Hank Hunt, president of the Kari Hunt Foundation. Hello to the both of you.
Hey, man.
Ricardo? What's up?
Not much. This is pretty good. You know, we were talking. It sounds like it's very hot and humid for the both of you where you are at.
Yeah, might as well, somebody's talking about cooking burnt ends. I feel like you're just cooking on the driveway outside.
Oh, man.
It's hot.
Yeah, I can't do a thing with the hair, so I had to wear a hat.
Yeah, you know, where I'm at.
Like you have hair under there.
Oh. Yeah, that's true. He's been on me all night tonight. I want to get him back.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, that's funny. Well, so we're going to get started here, because we've got this episode. You know, every roundtable is slated for an hour long. However, the discussion ends up going over because there's so much that there is to discuss. So as you're watching, like I said, it's probably going to be a little bit over an hour here. We've got 2 very powerful stories that we're going to hear about. And some of you may have heard about each story, and some of you who are joining may have not. So these are going to be ones that you do not want to miss. And the best part about this as well is that you will get to watch this in the replay, whether it be on Crowdcast or it be on Facebook. So I want to go ahead and start with Nathan. I want you to share Denise's story. This is, like I said, you're the president of the Denise and Kari Foundation, and there's a lot to your story, to her story rather, as well as, you know, with Hank and his daughter Kari. Now, Nathan, if you can take us through this story, because those who are watching as well, even if you know the story, there are some things that you're going to learn about. Some of the aftermath that came. There's a lot of news stories. If you've been in any of the training sessions, um, there's a lot more that happened, how it affected the family, what happened when media got involved and everything. There's so much to both stories, and we're going to learn. And once we hear from both, we're going to be discussing a few things. And if you have a question, again, please make sure to use the ask a question feature, and we will get those answered. So, Nathan, go ahead,
All
take
right.
it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and as always, Ricardo, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to tell Denise's story, and your support and your friendships just it's unmatched, man. So just thank you for everything you do. But yeah, so a lot of you may be familiar with Denise's story. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on all the nuts and bolts of everything that necessarily went wrong, but I'll just give you a quick elevator pitch, if you will, of kind of what happened, and really maybe get into a little bit more of kind of what happened afterwards that a lot of people don't really get a chance to hear about. When I teach the class that we teach for the Denise and Kari Foundation, it's mainly on that night, the incident, what happened, what went wrong, and then that's it. So I don't get to talk about a lot of the things afterwards, and I think a lot of that's part of the journey, and it's part of what got me to this point and our family to this point. So Denise and I were married for 2 years as of January 17, 2008, when this event happened. We grew up together in the same town in Inglewood, Florida. We went to the same high school. Our families kind of knew each other. We were acquaintances, and we found out after we started dating, we lived 2 blocks away from each other. So that was kind of neat. But just two lovebirds that just were living the American dream, right? And so I was a sophomore in college. She was a senior in high school, and we hit it off. We took a math class together. She was taking college courses, and thank God I met her in this calculus class. Otherwise, I wouldn't have passed it. But she was the brains, and so we started dating, and we went to college. We ended up transferring when she graduated. We both went to University of South Florida. Go Bulls! And that's where the story began. And we got into the kid making a little early. Noah came to this world a little premature than we thought we were going to have kids. We wanted to at least finish college first, but I just don't know how that actually happens. It's like magic, And so Noah came to the world. Best thing ever happened to me. And then Adam came along 18 months to the day later. So as of January 17, 2008, we were a family of 4. I was working 3 jobs at the time, so Denise could stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. And it was great. I mean, we had no money like most young couples don't, but we didn't care. We were super happy, and the kids were healthy, and we were just really excited, for what was to come. And so at the time that this happened, Denise was only 21. I was 23, and Denise was only 21. And just a normal day like any other day. I was working as a meter reader for Florida Power and Light, which is an electric company here in Florida, and went to work like any other day, and came home and found Noah and Adam, who were only 2 and 6 months old when this happened. They were home alone, and I couldn't find Denise anywhere. Her purse, her phone, her keys were all still in the house. Everything looked normal. There was no broken windows. There was no signs of a struggle or forced entry or anything. I literally was walking around just dumbfounded, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Called 911 and immediately and reported her missing. And that started one of the largest manhunts in Southwest Florida history, mainly because Denise's dad, Rick Goff, was a sergeant for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, so he's a police officer. And police officers all over started hearing about what happened and were trying to get involved and wanted to come help and wanted to find Denise. And over the course of that night, there were 5 911 calls made to try to save her. So Denise was taken by somebody we had never met before, totally unknown to the family. He was a unemployed, bankrupt plumber who lived in the city of Northport, where we lived, and just came to our house randomly and took Denise at gunpoint. We don't know a lot of details because to this day, he's never admitted to it. But eventually, throughout the night, Denise was able to call 911 from his phone. from the back of his car while she was tied up. And then also there was another huge call that came from a witness who saw Denise screaming in the back of the car, called 911. But unfortunately, that call, even though that lady, Jane Kowalski, knew exactly where Denise was, that agency never dispatched it out. And what made it worse was that was Denise's dad's agency that he worked for. And, as we get into in our 8-hour training, when we talk and really dive into all the details of what went wrong, it's frustrating because it wasn't a technology issue. It wasn't the radios didn't work. It was 100% personalities not getting along with other personalities in the comm center. And dispatchers were getting annoyed with another dispatcher because she didn't do her job the way she was supposed to most of the time. And she kind of just got away with, never entering things into the CAD. She would stand up and shout information all the time, whether it was hot call or not a hot call. And they got frustrated that night because they were so busy. And when that call came in from that bystander, hey, I see this person, she's screaming and something's wrong, and told her exactly where she was at. The call taker was yelling the information to the two dispatchers, and they said, okay, we'll put in a call and then we'll dispatch it. So the dispatchers would not dispatch the call until the call taker put the stuff into the CAD, basically to kind of teach her a lesson. And they were fed up with everything. So ultimately, that call obviously was never aired. It was never dispatched. Officers in that area, there was dozens, if not, we're probably talking 40 to 50 officers. There's 2 helicopters, 2 air units in the air. You're talking bolos have gone out statewide. There's multiple agencies, probably a half a dozen, maybe more agencies involved at this point. And really the only thing missing was Denise's location. That was the only thing missing. And they got that, but they never aired it. So that's basically, the kind of the rundown of what happened and what went wrong. And it's one of those things that it's something that can still happen. When you have dispatchers, and Ricardo, you know better than anybody, and most of you that are on here are dispatchers. And this job's tough. It's one of the hardest jobs on the planet. I can't do it. I know Hank will tell you he can't do it either. And so you can understand how difficult it can be, the rigors of the job and the pressure and the dealing with your coworkers. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, all that stuff doesn't matter, right? You all have to put all your differences aside with whoever your coworkers are and just do what you've got to do. And most of you, probably all of you on this, will do that. But this is still something that can happen. And so when I travel around now talking about this, that's one of the biggest takeaways we get to. So, but yeah, so after this happened, Michael King, the guy that did this to Denise, he was captured. The night that he took Denise in the afternoon around 2:00 on January 17th, and he was arrested around 9:15 that night. But he had already, since he evaded Jane Kowalski, who saw him, he ended up driving another 6 miles from the last point that Jane Kowalski saw them, and ended up shooting and killing Denise and then buried her. And so he was seen by a state trooper, was arrested, taken into custody, and Denise was finally found 2 days later by a search and rescue dog. And so Michael King, thanks to Denise's 911 call, thanks to all the evidence she left behind, thanks to other witnesses who gave a lot of testimony, and Michael King ended up getting convicted unanimously of the death of murder and got the death penalty. So, and I can talk more about that, Ricardo. if you want, I just, it's crazy. You just, a lot of it, when you look back, I'm sure Hank feels the same way. A lot of it, you look back and it's real hazy. There's things that I vivid as they just happened 2 minutes ago, and other things that it's funny. Rick and I, Denise's dad, we'll start talking about something and he'll bring up something that I totally forgot about, but it's the one thing that's for certain is the number one thing that I look back on and will never forget was how our family was picked up and carried through by not only our local community here in Southwest Florida, but by this industry, by 911. And so, that after Michael King was arrested, his murder trial was a 1.5 years later. The media was on our doorstep pretty much the first weekend. We hadn't even buried Denise, and the Today Show was already knocking on our front door. And so that really started a whirlwind of stuff that I never in a million years would have thought I would have had to endure, or our family would have had to endure. So yeah, so the media attention was crazy, mainly because Denise's dad agency is the one that dropped the ball. Denise was, a beautiful 21-year-old, super young mom, and she was taken from us way too soon, and she should still be here. Those of you that have seen the 8-hour class and seen the moving map where we have the AVL locations of the police cars in that area when the call came in, it's hard to watch. Even I've seen it 100 times, and it's still hard for me to watch. So I kind of told the Today Show to get off my lawn in a very polite, not so polite way. That was the only experience that I had negative with the media, to be honest. For the most part, the media was really respectful. Not only just local media, especially local media. The local media, I have some friends now to this day that are from the media that I just got to know so well. But the national media actually was really respectful. Denise's story was a Dateline episode. ABC Primetime did a story. Dr. Phil did an episode. Fox News, CNN, you name it. Good Morning America. It was. I finally did do the Today Show, but that was a blessing in disguise, because I was starting the foundation. A few months after this, I actually started the foundation to give back to other murder victims, to the families of other murder victims, because unless we had the media attention like we did, a lot of people may not have even heard of what happened. And after the incident, an anonymous person paid for Denise's funeral. Still to this day, I have no idea who did that. College funds were set up for the boys. And so I just wanted to do something to give back to other families that maybe don't get that. And the last thing I thought I was ever going to have to do at 23 years old was bury my 21-year-old wife. And so that was unbelievable to me. And so that's what the foundation initially was for. That's what we started. And then, thanks to all the media attention, thanks to hearing from a lot of people in the industry that started learning about what went wrong, the focus shifted to helping 911, to not bashing 911, not throwing them under the bus, but just trying to lift them up and raise them up and help them do the job the best they can every single time. And the tour started where I just started doing keynote presentations, a lot like you've done, Ricardo and Hank, different conferences in different states. And it was raw. I used to have to read off a script. I couldn't, I was reading line for line, everything, because I didn't have any other way of getting it out. And I wasn't a professional speaker. And I think looking back, a lot of people told me that's really it's why it was so powerful, because, it was raw and it was from here. And then over the years, I got better at it. I started, being able to talk without reading from something. And, but yeah, it's just, I don't know how long you want me to go here, but I look back and I thank God that I had my sons. I think our whole family does, because and I know Hank's going to hit on this, like in his own personal story with his granddaughter, but, thank God for my kids, because they were our medicine. They were our therapy. They helped us get through this. And to this day, they're great. I mean, they're doing amazing. I was just telling Hank and Ricardo before we started, I just registered Noah for high school. So Noah's going to be a freshman in high school this year. So, man, that's scary. Any of you that have a high school freshman son, or any son that's in high school, know that that's a lot of fun. It's a good age. But he's a football player. He loves it. He wants to be in the NFL. Man, he's got the heart and passion for it. So hopefully he has the size for it. Unfortunately, size isn't we're not real huge people in our family. So, but he's got the drive, and and Adam's, going to be in 8th grade and is a little baseball star. So, but it's just, I look back and I'm thankful that they were there, and that they were they were so innocent, and they just kept going. They kept us all going. I think the thing that I'm most proud of looking back is how I still to this day talk to my in-laws. Denise's parents, Sue and Rick, we're super close. I talk to them probably 2 or 3 times a week, easy, and see them 2 or 3 times a week. And our family stuck together. A lot of families get torn apart when something like this happens, and we made that promise to Denise that we were going to stick together and we were going to power through. And they made a promise to me that they were going to help me with the boys. And so that's kind of like the overview of things. I know I'm super thankful as I sit here today, finding a new normal, and you know, I'm remarried. I've met the most amazing woman on the planet that can actually handle what I do. Not only handle me, but which is tough. You guys know, we're good friends. I mean, I'm kind of like I'm all over the place, man. You got to pin me down sometimes to keep my ADD from going crazy. But Tanya and I met back in we actually met back in 2015, but I finally asked her out for the first time in September of 2017. Hurricane Irma had come through Florida that August. And I don't know if you all remember that. Irma was a real bad storm that went up through Florida. I lost power for 7 days. And Tanya, who we were just friends, we knew each other through 911, and we would see each other at conferences. She had a close mutual friend of mine and hers, and she wouldn't leave me alone for like the entire week that I had no power, and was calling me and texting me. And I'm just like, man, what is wrong? She lived in Oregon at the time. And she has 4 girls that are all teenagers. And so that was a little tough for me initially to get through. But man, she's just got the heart of gold, and she's amazing. And so for everybody, if anybody's watching from Tennessee, Tennessee is a special place to us because that's where we kissed for the first time in Nashville. So it was a pretty epic moment, I'm not gonna lie. And yeah,
you write a song about it.
Yeah. Hey man, it was the only thing missing from that was a cowboy hat, Hank. I'm telling you, it was
Got one.
Yeah, I know. We were in country bar. Oh goodness.
I'll bring you one next time we see each other.
Yeah. but yeah, so anyway, I just founding a new normal. I'm just super happy that Denise's legacy has turned into something positive, and that her story has made such an impact on so many dispatchers and so many people around the country and in the world, really. And it's just, I think the biggest takeaway from it is, just, man, you just got to get up and dust yourself off and do what they would want you to do. And I know Hank's going to hit on that too. Denise, I knew what she would want. I knew what she would want me to do. And I just had to keep reminding myself of that. And I didn't always do what she would want me to do. And a lot of times Sue and Rick would be the first ones to point that out to me. But I did my best. And so now, we're here, the foundation, we have a staff of 4 people. We're doing trainings nationwide. And we're just, man, it's just awesome. I'm so blessed. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell, Ricardo.
Right. Well, thank you again, filling us in. We're going to get to a little bit more as we go along. There looks like there's a question in here already, but I want to get to that question after Hank has told his story, Kari's story, and then we'll get into some questions. And again, if you're watching on Facebook, those comments are not being monitored right now. Please join us over here in Crowdcast, where you can join in on the discussion in real time. And I'm going to put the link in there one more time so that you can jump in here as well. So, Hank, take it away, my friend. Tell us Kari's story, because I found out, I knew about the story, but a mutual friend of ours got a hold of me as well, in Mark Fletcher. And he and I were talking, and I'll get to that part later. Let's hear Kari's story.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo. Thanks, Nathan. Hey, everybody. Yeah, for those of you that don't know the story, before we start, you did say there was a 7-second delay in Facebook, correct? Because Fletch is on here tonight, and I wanted to make sure that everything was safe.
Yeah.
He's good to go. Okay. What happened was on December the 1st of 2013, my wife was in Fort Worth shopping with her mom and sister for Christmas. All of the kids were gone. I was at the house by myself. and working around the place here. And things started off kind of strange with phone calls from other daughters saying that they can't get in touch with Kari, and which was out of the ordinary. And I said, well, just hang on, I'll give her a call. She always answers when I give her a ring up, and she didn't. And I called several times and got a little bothered about it. And then I guess about 30 minutes, 40 minutes after Lonnie, just one of my daughters, called the first time, she called the second time and said that Brad, her husband, had just posted on Facebook, "Oh my God, I snapped. I'm sorry." Well, that told me that there's something was wrong. It just wasn't normal. He had let me back up a little bit. And in November of 2013, before Thanksgiving, Kari had gone to a wedding with the kids in Marshall, Texas. It was about 70 miles away from Lindale, where they were living. And after the wedding was over with, she was packing the kids up to get ready to head back to the house. And all three children did not want to go back. They said, "We don't want to go back. We want to stay here." And she had been having problems, and she'd been, I guess, waffling back and forth over what to do, and that was enough to make her make a decision to stay there with permission of her sister. They sat down and talked for a while, and she made the decision to not go back. And she called her husband and informed him that they wouldn't be coming back. They'd been married for about 10 years, and she'd been living with some verbal abuse. I do know. Physical abuse, I've never been informed that was going on, but I suspect it might have at some point. But the one thing that I do know is that throughout the last year, when I talked to Kari, if I asked her, I would say, how's it going? How's your day been? She would say, it's been a good day. And she didn't say that all the time. And it was those days now, going back and thinking back and remembering, it was the days that she didn't say that I should have spoke up. Or I wish I had spoke up, or her had somehow caught on that something might be wrong. But anyway, she decided to stay there, kept the kids there. And as the weeks went on, we went through Thanksgiving. And about 3 weeks later, he wanted to see the children, which he had already made death threats to her. And we had told her to bring the kids out to our place, and he could come there. It was between Marshall and their house. And she didn't want to do that because it was too far of a drive. And but I had no idea she was going to meet him. She had agreed to meet him at a hotel. He had gone from Lindale to Marshall, and had gotten a hotel there, and she agreed to bring the kids to him. And when she did, she went inside the hotel, I know, to help carry things in, but to also make sure that there wasn't anybody else there. She wanted to make sure the kids were okay. And she got them settled down watching SpongeBob SquarePants cartoons. And I think her oldest, Brianna, was on the bed drawing, doing coloring. And he convinced her to come into the bathroom for a cigarette and to talk. And you can see in the hotel videos that she hesitated going in numerous times, which she didn't want to. Obviously she didn't feel right about it, but she did. And apparently he locked the door behind her. And when she did not agree to try to continue with the marriage, he asked for one last hug. And when she did, he had a knife in one hand and started stabbing her. And 29 times. And he left her there. There are some more things that go on forever, telling you some of the great things or the worst bad things that happened that day. But he ended up, and while this was going on, Brianna had ushered her younger brother and sister out, 2 and 3 years old, into the hallway of a hotel and told them to go get help. And They had no clue where to go. Video cameras showed them wandering the hallways. Brianna's banging on the door, kicking on the bathroom door, telling him to stop, going back to the phone to call 911. She dials 911 and there's nothing there. It's a static sound. She tries it again and it's the same thing. She leaves the phone, she goes back, she bangs on the door, she tells him to stop. She's screaming, stop. She goes back to the phone, she dials 2 more times. It's nothing but static. She can't get through, she can't get help. She leaves the room and she goes out and she's with her brother and sister. And finally, after, I don't know, 15 minutes, another person who had rented a room in a hotel heard the commotion going on come out. During this time, employees of the hotel had gone by, but they didn't speak English. And they had tried to get help for them. And this woman, bless her heart, she went into the room and banged on the door several times. It told she could hear the screaming and the fighting and things like that. And he actually opened the door at that point and opened the door about that far and said, "We'll be through in a minute." Okay. And she said she saw blood on his shoes, so she knew something was wrong. And that was when she made the first 911 call. Probably going to end up being about 19 to 20 minutes after it all started. Had the first 911 call gone through, it would have been 2 minutes after it started. But he left and took Kylie, the 3-year-old, with him, not voluntarily, but you can see on the video him grabbing her and leave, and Brianna protecting her brother, holding him back. And he leaves, and we have a 5-hour Amber Alert out for her. And meanwhile, we're still waiting on an ambulance to get to Kari, and she had pulled herself across the floor to the door and had tried to open the door, but she couldn't because she had the knife in her neck between 2 vertebrae, and she couldn't raise her arm anymore. And she tried hard. She was scratching the door. The lady from the other hotel room heard her scratching, so she was alive. And this was after he had left. And I guess about 10 minutes after that, the EMS arrived, and at that point she had passed. And they finally got to her. And the first description I noticed on the EMS report was she was warm and pliable. So obviously, not getting through to 911 was the main reason she died that day. The main reason she died that day is because the son of a bitch stabbed her to death. Okay, but she lived, and what's it? The doctor that did the autopsy on her said that none of the wounds that she had were life-threatening, but the time and the number of them was what caused her death. I recovered Kylie approximately 3 or 4 hours later, 70 miles away in Atlanta, Texas. And seeing that video is hard for me to watch. You hear them pull him over, and you hear them order him down on the ground. Kylie thinking she needs to get down on the ground. She's only 3, and you hear a police officer saying, I've got the kid, I've got the kid, and he runs over and grabs her. And when he gets closer, his microphone picks up her crying. And he runs her back to the police car, and when he does, the first thing Kylie wants to know is, where's mommy? And he said, I'm going to take you back to your mama. We're going to take you back to mama. And by the time the video is over with, we understand that this is about 3 hours later, none of the arresting officers know that a murder has occurred. They had no idea that Kari had died. And the last thing in the video was the lead officer saying, I want to know where mama is. And he ended up with a $5.1 million bond. They weren't going to let him out. Some odd reason they wouldn't let me go talk to him. But it was hard. And like Nathan said, if my family hadn't been there, I don't think I'd be here. I just don't think I'd be here. And the one person that was there for me 24/7 was my wife. And without her, No, it wouldn't have happened. But at the police station, Brianna, I asked her, she had her head on my shoulder. We were sitting in my lap. She had her head on my chest. And she said something. And I kind of pushed her back a little bit. And I said, do what? And she said, I tried 4 times, Papa, but it wouldn't work. And I said, what wouldn't work? And she said, 911. And dummy me, I asked her why it wouldn't work. And she said, I don't know. And again, like a dummy, I said, well, Papa's going to fix it. And as soon as I said those words, I had no clue how a phone worked. I had no clue why 911 worked. I had no clue. But at that point, when she laid her head back down on my chest, I know she had to have heard my heart going 1,000 miles an hour, because I just made a promise to a 9-year-old that I'm not sure I can deliver. And I went to social media with it, and friends and family were discussing it beforehand. We ended up calling it Kari's Law. I started a petition on change.org. And as the naive old guy here, Nathan will tell you, that I'm thinking I'm going to get 100 to 200 signatures on this petition, and I'm going to walk into my congressman's office and move the world. Okay, I'm going to move mountains with 200 signatures. And actually, it started off fairly slow, but then we went to church, I guess about a week later, and we had 3,500 signatures. Wow, I'm cooking. You know, I'm happy. We've got that many signatures, and when we get out of church, we have 125,000. By the time we get home, we're at 225,000. And I'm thinking, okay, somebody's got a bot doing something, screwing with it or whatever. I'm not sure. They come to find out, Lindsay, I can't think of the actress's name, from what was Pretty Little Liars. That's what it was. And she had posted it on her Twitter account. And right after that, Beth Chapman, Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife, posted it on hers. And that's where the signatures were coming from. And they were pouring in. And it's about a week later, I guess, I get a phone call from him. And he introduced himself as Mark Fletcher with Avaya Corporation, and he told me that he could help me get this done. That it was my story to tell, but he would help me with the right people. And I wanted to know why, how, when, who. And I did not want what happened to Kari, and I didn't want her name put on a product. And when he told me he was with a telecom company, that's the one thing I thought of. He promised me it wouldn't happen. And over the next 4.5 years, he did exactly what he promised he would do. And between the two of us, we walked a few miles. I think he walked a few more than I did. But he took it to the FCC, and after that, the FCC chairman or commissioner, Ajit Pai at that time, took it and ran with it. He wrote a letter to the top 10 CEOs of the top 10 hotel chains, and wanted to know if a guest in their hotel could call 911 without dialing any other number, and if not, why not? And he requested an answer within a certain period of time, and he got those answers. And in January of 2015, he came to Marshall, Texas. I guess I bet him that if he ever came to Texas, I'd buy him a beer and some barbecue. Well, he showed up. So he came down, he did a press conference, and he read off a litany of chains of hotels that had already changed because of Kari and Kari's Law. And that was really the first time I thought this might be possible. And I can promise you, if Mark hadn't gotten involved, that we'd still be fighting it. But it was emails and phone calls and letters, and that's all it was. And traveling and going broke and doing everything you possibly can to make sure that promise I made to that 9-year-old comes true. You know, on February the 16th of 2018, I stood in the Oval Office with the president when he signed Kari's law into legislation. And after that, I was able to stand in my congressman's office and have a picture taken with my now 14-year-old granddaughter and let her know that a promise was fulfilled. And now afterwards, we bring the story. It's an awareness thing. People just don't know about it. And even now, even in this area around here where it was such, we never did get national coverage. I tried my hardest. I met with numerous producers from major television studios in New York. Matter of fact, I met with Diane Sawyer's producer twice in New York, and they refused to carry the story because it wasn't of public interest. And so I knew we had an uphill battle when it came to that. So it became a tremendous grassroots thing. And we had so many people back us up on April after it happened, that first April, 4 or 5 months later. Mark had me come to the Texas Public Safety Conference in Galveston. And he was going to go and talk about it. And then I was going to say a few words. Well, he got up on stage and he goes, "Hi, I'm Mark Fletcher. Here's Hank Hunt." And I had never spoken about it before to anybody at all. And like Nathan, I had 3 sheets of paper. And I got up there and couldn't make it through the first line, and then caught my breath. And I felt like I needed to be looking at people when I talked to them. And I kept looking down and reading, and finally I just threw it away and just started talking. It was just no other way to do it. You know, when I write it down, it sounds great. When I speak it, okay, I get the message across. That's all I want. And today, we go and we do local talks, and it's turning into a lot of what it's turning into is advice to other parents who have lost children, especially adult children, and it's morphing into different things, and we look forward to a good year coming up. If there's no pandemic, or we're not concealed to our homes anymore, but the social conferencing like that this has been going on here, I think it's been pretty good, pretty successful. But I think, you know, and as far as the media goes, the only thing I told them was don't ask me how this made me feel. That's the most ridiculous question anybody can ask someone who's lost a family member. How does it make you feel? And the first one that asked me that, I got up and walked out. And wasn't going to have it. And I didn't want Brianna's name or any of the children's name. They did a good job doing that. Brianna was with us when Governor Abbott signed it. And one of the reporters asked Brianna, what's it like, or something like that. And she looked at me, and I looked at her and smiled, and she did exactly what I told her to do. She looked and she said, "No comment." And Governor Abbott loved it. He wanted to hire her right then as an advisor. But she did good, and she doesn't talk about it a lot, but she's doing good. She's 15 now, fixing to start driving, and heading into the 10th grade, and beautiful, and just can't ask for more. Can't ask for more.
She's in good hands, man.
Yes, man. Both of your stories. Geez. I want to share a picture here really quick, Hank, that you sent me. The both of you sent me, several pictures, but this one that Hank, I want to share really quick. Let me pull it up here. All right,
yeah.
There it is right there. That is an amazing picture. And I met your granddaughter when we were at the 911 Goes to Washington conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking up to the both of you, because I think you and I had only spoken maybe once or twice.
Not very much.
Before that. Yeah. And we were there, and you're like, this is my granddaughter. And I just kind of stood there, and you were telling her who I was and stuff, and we shook hands, and I remember holding my breath, being there with all of you, and we took a picture. And what's funny is in the picture, I look like I'm like puffed up, and it's because I was holding my breath because it was just an honor to be there with all of you and everything that you had gone through and everything that you were doing. I mean, you were there. Not only was it the 50th anniversary for 911, but you had all just signed the Kari's law. So there was so much to that. And I mean, just looking at that picture and just thinking about the fact that going back to what you said, you made that promise, and I mean, seeing her face, it's like, oh wow.
Ricardo, that promise was made. That promise was fulfilled by 1,000 people, not me. There's just no way I could have done that without the people from the 911. Like Nathan said, the 911 community has just wrapped their arms around us. And the weird part about it is they were apologizing to us. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't understand why. And the responses we were getting back was, we were there. If she'd have just gotten through, we could have helped her. And I'm sorry. And that's just the hugs and the tears and stuff that we get from these folks mean so much to us. And it's just, I've never met a better group of people. I really haven't.
Agreed.
And I want everybody to know that if you see that little 9 with the red slash through it, the person that designed that is a graphic genius, and he's on the microphone right there next to you. And Ricardo's the one that
he's under right
designed right there. That's it. Am I pointing to him this way? Or
yeah, I don't know.
I feel like the Brady Bunch, and I'm not getting it right.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
But yeah, Ricardo's the one that designed that for us, and it's become a staple for us. Everything I've got's got it on it.
Yeah, Mark, and that's what I was kind of saying in the beginning before we got into your story. Mark had sent me a message, and he said, I know you're a graphic designer too and stuff, and I wanted to ask you something. And then he laid it on me. I was like, yeah, for sure. I said, I'll figure something out. And I put that on there, and the 9 is supposed to look actually like a phone. And then so when you see it, that's why it's shaped that way. So it's no 9 needed, and it's on a 9, but it looks like a phone as well.
Right.
And then it's been all over the place, but I never say it. So when I saw I don't mention it ever. When I saw Hank and DJ in Texas, what was it, a year ago? Maybe, was it a year or two ago? We were at the Galveston conference.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that time. Yeah, I was sitting in Hank's session, and it was the first time that I was in there, and I was also his audio video guy, because we were hooking up his stuff and we were testing everything, and I said, I'm just going to sit up front so that if you have any issues or anything, I'll hook you up. And I didn't know he was going to say anything, and what he just mentioned now is what he did to a standing room only room, and I'm just sitting there like, oh man, I didn't know he was going to do that. So
I didn't know that you did that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. So thank you so much for that.
And also this guy here, am I pointing in the right direction?
Yep.
This guy here is on my board of directors for the Kari Hunt Foundation. So it's a tight-knit group.
Yep.
Yes. There's a lot of stuff that's coming into the comments here, and we're going to kind of go back and forth on the both of you, now that you have both shared these, again, powerful stories, and triumph through tragedy, really. I mean, both of these stories, they're just doing so much for the industry and those who are part of it. It's weird to think, as you're telling this story, Hank, how your granddaughter said, I tried 4 times and it didn't work. And I remember reading the story and thinking, oh my Lord, yeah, I never thought about the fact that, yeah, you have to dial 9 for an outside line. And I remember talking to other people about it too, and thinking, I bet you there are people who don't even think about that at all. And why is that? Why is it an issue? Like, it shouldn't be, because that is that's what we teach our children all the time, right? You dial 911, those 3 numbers to get help. But if you're in a business or a school or whichever that has MLTS type, it's not going to work. You got to dial that 9. It's like, what?
Ricardo, it wasn't just the number 9, man. It was, as we went along, I discovered it was 8, it was 7. Like I said before, in my presentations, I stayed at a hotel in Waco that instructed its callers on the phone to call 6821 for emergency. I've seen phones that say to dial 444-55, call 0, call the front desk. It's just, and none of them are trained 911 dispatchers.
Right.
So, as a matter of fact, right after Kari's law was passed in New York, I believe it was, of all places, the first place to pass was Suffolk County, New York. And we went through there and then to Illinois and Maryland and Tennessee. And a lot of people wonder why it took 2 years for Texas to pass it, or a year and a half. It's because Texas's legislature only meets every 2 years, and they were in a 2-year hiatus after that. So it was a mess out there, and it still is in some places. But and like I said, it's the awareness that we're trying to get out there now.
Right. About exactly. And going back really quick to talk about the petition that was on change.org, it looks like here in the comments, Mark had posted that it was filled out by 614,000 people.
Yeah, it was a little more than 150 that I wanted.
Yeah.
We had them from all over the world, man. I was getting signatures from people in Czechoslovakia and Sweden, Switzerland, Canada, Mexico, everywhere. And of course, Canada and Mexico, they use 911 also, and they have the same problems. And even Europe with 112, they're experiencing similar problems. So Mark has actually been to Dubai with this, and I believe over in Poland, Warsaw, Poland, to talk about Kari's law and the problems that it's intended to solve. And I mean, it was a worldwide thing, but it was all through social media, and we could never have done it without social media.
Yeah,
never.
Now, there are some questions that are coming in here on Crowdcast, and I just want to remind everyone one more time that if you are watching on Facebook, the comments are not being moderated. So if you have a question, please go to the link that's within the comments and come over to Crowdcast, and you can post your question here on the Ask a Question feature. Now, the first one that's here goes to Nathan, and it says, Nathan, does Rick still work at the agency?
Yeah, Rick at the time that this happened, he was a 25-year veteran. So he was a sergeant over at the time the Fugitive Task Force, or like a warrant squad. And he ended up staying on. He stayed at that agency. He retired. I think it was 2016. He actually retired. Not because he wanted to retire, but the drop and how all that stuff works with retirement and all that. He decided to do that. He had the option after a year to go back to work at any agency he wanted. I guess that's how Florida works. And I think he had made his decision to kind of stay retired. He'd always intended, I think, to go back to work, but once he retired, he got really even more heavily involved with the boys, coaching their sports teams, and he became the JV baseball coach at our high school. He was president of the Little League here in our town. He was just really, really busy. And so I think he was going to kind of maybe stay retired. Well, my mother-in-law retired from the tax collector's office, and so he ended up going back to work after that. And so yeah, that honeydew list was just getting too long. So he ended up going back to work. It was actually more of he was being courted. Like, I think the sheriff's office they wanted him back, and I think Rick really had that. Like, he missed it. Like, you work in a job for 30 plus years. He obviously loved what he does, and so he went back to work. I think now he's still just part-time. Like, he moves around in different divisions in the sheriff's office, but he's back with Charlotte County. And again, the situation after the fact was really, really toxic. The sheriff's office at the time, with the leadership they had, did not really handle it the best way. I'm not going to divulge, but it was just frustrating to see kind of how the response was. But over the years, I know that agency has come a long way, and I still live in Charlotte County. So I'm very confident in our 911 system. I love all the dispatchers there. I've never had a chance to meet any of them, but someday I hope that changes. I would love to go down there and just thank them for what they do, just like I do nationwide in 50 states. So actually 48. I haven't been to Hawaii yet, or Alaska. So anybody from Hawaii or Alaska, please hit me up. But and you guys can come with me, guys. I'll tag you. We can all go to Hawaii. But no, he does. He still works there.
Excellent. Now, for Hank, the next question here is, now I know what your answer was because you said it during that time, but now we're in the aftermath. So hopefully it's still the same. Hold on, where is it here? Oh, here it is. So, how are the kids doing now?
They're doing good. Of course, Zane was 2 at the time. He's not going to remember much. He asks about her, and every now and then he wants to hear her voice. So we'll play a video. Kylie is a spitting image of Kari, and so pretty. And I have to stop telling her that because it's going to end up going to her head. And then Brianna is your typical 15-year-old, more interested in who's on the phone and on than in the living room with us. And but they're doing good. They're doing good. Whole family's doing good. We have our times. I think just like Nathan does. I'm quite sure a song, a smell, somebody says "Daddy" at a grocery store, and I turn around because it sounded like Kari. It's just those things. But no, kids are doing good. Kids are doing real good. As a matter of fact, all 9 grandkids are doing good.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Hey, I have 7 regular kids. I mean, so I'm not even a grandkid.
Well, I helped raise 4 girls, but I traveled during that time, so that helped quite a bit.
So you know my pain. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. I'm not gonna lie, it's actually amazing. The girls are way easier than the boys, and I know people call me crazy, but
until Zane came around, I thought the girls were the hardest, and no. I had it easy.
There's a second part to that question, actually, with the aftermath of like the court hearing and everything. What was the actual sentence, if you're able to say?
He tried to bargain. He tried to make a deal with us, and he said that he would plead guilty for 5 years, out in 2.5 or something like that. That was ridiculous. And I'm not going to tell you where I told him to go, but I told him to go there. And then there's several times it came through, and we even made him an offer from the family of, if I remember correctly, it was 60 years out in 20 or 30. And he said, no, I'll just take my chances with the jury. We said, okay. So we went to trial, and it was a week-long trial, and the jury came back and said 99 years with out in 60. So
Karma's
thumbs up to the jury.
Karma's
Thumbs up to the jury. He won't live that long. His mouth will get him killed.
Yeah.
But he's where he needs to be.
I just, when I dealt with this, coming from the husband's perspective, living with Denise every day and like that void being ripped away, like it was really tough. But as a couple years went on and I really started, as my kids started getting older, and I think as I was maturing as a parent, I have no idea how Rick and Sue got through this. I have no idea how you got through this. How I just losing. I can't imagine losing one of my kids. And
Don't try.
I know, man. And I've heard it a million times. You never want to, you never want to outlive your kids. And but again, it just comes down to, hey, you want to do what they want you to do. I ask myself every day what Denise would want me to do, and I try to do it. I don't always do it, but I try. So I know Kari's super proud of you, man. And such a powerful story, and I'm honored to know you.
Well, right back at you, brother.
Yeah, man.
I can't imagine losing my wife. She's standing here staring at me and making sure I don't
Hi, DJ.
don't mess anything up. That's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to, and I've said this to you before, face to face after we did our episode, Hank, but and you talk about DJ being right there and how you probably wouldn't have been able to get through this if you didn't have her there as well as your support. And I remember when we were recording this episode, the both of you were on with me, and I had asked her, how did you do throughout all of this? And I remember she got emotional and she started crying, and I thought, Hank he's gonna hurt me after this. I just made his wife cry. And I remember afterwards saying, I'm so sorry.
Now you did, and you didn't have to be sorry.
But it was also really good to see, the connection between the both of you throughout this entire ordeal, from the beginning all the way to that present time, and even till now. I mean, just right there, still by your side, and it's amazing.
It is.
And just like with
most families can't get through it. Most families rip apart, get torn apart, and hi, DJ.
Oh, there she is. Hello.
Stick your tongue out at Mark Fletcher.
Oh, that's funny.
You married up, Hank. You married up.
I know, dude. I know.
Yep.
So there's a question here, and this is for the both of you, and it says, you both have spoken to dispatchers across the nation. If you had one message for them, what would it be? And also on that note, is there a different message that you would give to administrators, directors, managers, etc.?
Wow.
So,
well, as far as that, I mean, I would reference a short story about a man crossing or passing by a quarry, and he sees a stone cutter out cutting stone, and he goes and asks him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm cutting stone." And he said, "Why?" And he goes, "Because it's my job." He goes down, he sees another stone cutter. He says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm cutting stone." And he asked him why, and he said, "To make money to feed my family." And he gets to the third stone cutter, and he says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm cutting stone." And he said, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I'm building a cathedral." It all depends on how you see the future and how you see what you're doing as to whether or not the cathedral is going to be big or if it's going to be cutting stone. And that would be my message to the administrators out there: is aim big and don't settle for less.
perfect.
Yeah, it's hard to follow that, Hank.
Oh, come on.
That's great. And that's a great story because it's all about perspective. It's all about, why are you doing this? I think every dispatcher out there, every 911, emergency communications officer, telecommunicator, whatever their title, call taker, gets into this job because they want to make a difference. They want to help, and they think they're going to be good at it, or hope they're going to be good at it, and they want to impact people's lives in a positive way. And I think the message that I always try to convey, and I'm conveying to everybody watching tonight, is just don't forget why you do this job. Don't forget why you do it, and just do the best job you can. As the Kyle Plush Foundation answer the call, the Kyle Plush case, Jill and Ron just doing amazing things for the memory of their son. That's their message: do the best job you can every single time, and just don't forget it. Because if you don't forget why you do it, you're going to do the best job you can every single time. Because it may be Kari on the other line, it may be Brianna, it may be Denise. You just have to be ready, and that's and obviously, Hank, you would back me up just thanks. Thank you for what you do.
Yes.
You do.
Yes. There's not enough thanks to go around.
There isn't.
There's no way.
We're your biggest fans. We're your biggest fans.
We are.
So there are a couple other questions here. And again, if you're watching on Facebook, please join us on here so that you can throw in a question as well. And if you're watching right now on Crowdcast, you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature, the ask a question feature, so that we can throw them up on here and we can be able to go through them. So there is one in here that says, I heard of this issue, and this is with Kari's Law. I heard of this issue with not being able to get out to 911 in hotels, etc., and the drive to get things changed, but didn't know the reason behind it until now. Are there any states that don't have Kari's Law in place that you know of?
Not anymore. Not anymore. There were, when, like I said, on February the 16th of 2018, President Trump signed Kari's Law into legislation federally. So that covers the whole country. It did not go into effect until 2 years later. But that 2 years has passed, and it is now federal law. And that any multi-line telephone system in the United States, after, actually, it's not, the one thing that we were surprised about, and one thing we were disappointed in, is that it did not cover existing systems. But it is a law, and it is for new systems going in, for new. Mark can tell you more about the technical part of it than I could, but it's law now for any new systems going in, any multi-line telephone systems going in, being installed at this point, or upgraded, anything like that. And it has to be done, but people are doing it on their own altogether because there is a liability to it. And I think it was Wilberforce said you can no longer say you didn't know, because it's out there now, especially in the tech industry. And if there's a telecommunications company out there that does not change your system over to be Kari's Law compliant, I would seek another telecommunications company, because they're not having your interests in mind. But regardless of, like Mark says, regardless of the law, liability is a huge incentive, and
Right.
it can be racked up real high in a court of law.
Now, I was thinking that you were going to say that that if they don't, to let you know, and that you were going to go over there.
That's true. That's true. I will call them. As a matter of fact, I just did last week. I have people sending me pictures. I have people send me pictures all the time. So I'm staying in there's actually a Toadsuck, Arkansas, believe it or not. And I could be staying in Toadsuck, Arkansas, and you have to dial a 9. They take a picture of the phone, the faceplate on the phone. They send me the picture, and I'll call the hotel and find out why. And 9 times out of 10, it is Kari's Law compliant. They just haven't changed that faceplate yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still see that in the hotels I travel, and I always want to call you, but
do it.
I should. I will.
Do it.
I want to. There's one thing I want to add that I think is really interesting that you said, Hank, is you had no idea how phones worked before this happened, and this is probably the last thing you would ever have thought about is dialing 911 out of a hotel room. Nobody would ever think about it until they needed to do it. Just like 911 in general, you don't think about it until you need it. And it's funny because our family was kind of exposed to the same thing. We had no idea how 911 worked. My father-in-law probably did, being a police officer. But looking at the situation, like in Florida, there was no minimum training for 911 in Florida back in 2008, and now there is, thanks to Denise's law in the state of Florida. But there's still 22, 23 states nationwide that don't mandate training for 911. And like you would say, going out to the general public, asking if they think that if you dial 911 out of a hotel, well, it should work. You shouldn't have to dial 9 first. It's the same thing about training in 911. It just shouldn't take these stories to happen in order, Denise and Kari shouldn't have had to pay the price,
No.
and these things were preventable. I mean, I have to think that somebody out there, I think it was even one of the questions, or why didn't somebody think of this before? Why did somebody in Florida think that minimum training for 911 dispatchers should be mandated? Because it should be. It should be a nationwide law, just like Kari's law.
It should be.
It
really should be. And as far as Kari's situation, I think it has been a problem for a while. And if I remember correctly, I was told that the industry said they would police themselves, and they didn't do a very good job of it. And it's Fletch has a personal story too about being able to, I don't know if he wants me to say anything about it, but he went through an experience with being able to get with 911, and I believe it was with a satellite phone, and his daughter grabbed the phone to call 911, and she did, and she got 911, but they live in New Jersey, and 911 that answered was Dallas, Texas. So there's a lot of things. And of course, Mark being in the business, he knows that problem existed. He's existed for a long time, been trying to fix it. But because of Kari, it advanced quickly.
Right.
And I hate to say that. I'd much rather have her back, but it's
agreed.
It is what it is.
Now, kind of talking about, kind of piggyback off of what you guys were saying here just a moment ago. One of the questions here is, why do you think getting rid of dialing a number to get an outside line wasn't looked at earlier? Hank, throughout everything that you've gone through and the people you've spoken to, especially at the FCC and with Fletch, this is, I've thought about this myself. Again, why do you think getting rid of dialing a number to get an outside line wasn't looked at earlier? Did anyone ever, in your conversations with people, what did they say to that?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know of anybody that really does know the answer. I know that it's been common practice, but if it was a 9 on every system, then that would make sense to me. But it isn't. So what I understand is that whenever these installations are made at hotels, office buildings, wherever it may be, the customer is asked, what do you want that code to be? And they can make their own code. Matter of fact, Chili's restaurant used to have a 4-digit code in order to dial 911. And when we went up there to eat, this was at local Kilgore, Texas, a large metropolis there. And when we told them our story, they changed it the next day, that it's direct dial. This was long before Kari's law was passed. And the story, like just as the same in Nathan's case, I think it's the story, the delivery of the story to let people know what happened and that it could happen to you and your family, and we don't want it to. And that's what makes people change.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the loss of a loved one and what it does to a person, because I can tell you exactly what it does. Nathan can tell you exactly what it does. And
Hank, I'm sure you don't want any other 911 center out there to know that somebody was trying to call them, but they couldn't get through, because I'm sure those dispatchers, I'm sure they have to live with that, knowing they could have helped. They just didn't know, what was happening. And I think that's definitely, like, I don't want another Denise to go through what Denise went through. I don't want somebody else out there to do that, but I don't want another 911 center to go through it. What Charlotte County went through, what Northport went through, what a lot of the local agencies went through, because they were associated with this case and such a really big mess up. Even today, 12 years later, I know they still feel the impacts of it, and I don't want any other 911 center to deal with that. So, it's just, you're right. It's it's just hey, they shouldn't have had to go through what they went through. Denise should still be home with her kids right now, and Kari should still be home with hers.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But what gets me about Denise's case is that she herself was talking to 911.
Yeah.
And that's what blows my mind.
And technology, and because of challenges with technology, actually, honestly, the technology probably existed back in 2008, like what Rapid SOS is doing now, but it's just a legislative thing. It's a funding thing. 911 is always playing catch up because they're publicly funded. Yep. And until it happens to a legislator or somebody that's in that power to write a bill, nothing's going to happen. And that's not right. So, I say it all the time, dispatchers are doing the best job they possibly can with the tools that they're given. And it's not fair. It's not a fair fight. And, we're just, again, we're just trying to help be a voice to help you guys get what you deserve in the industry.
Yeah, Mark has made a comment there that he's made many times, is that this has happened. What happened with Kari, and it happened many times before. It's just that I had a big mouth. Nathan's got the big mouth. That's what it takes, is to get out there and get pissed off enough that you go and you try your best to make things happen. And if it does, then you keep on doing it. And it's not anything to be patted on the back for. I just don't want it to happen to anybody else again, because I know what it feels like.
Right.
And that little girl at 9 years old did her best to save her mom, and she saved her brother. I know she saved his life. And matter of fact, she probably saved all of their lives by not going with him and grabbing her brother and pulling him back. And but the way he grabbed Kylie in the video and yanked her up and left, oh, I wish I'd have been there. I wish I'd have been there, but I knew nothing about it. And I've met such great people, you among the top of them, that I wish I'd have never met. Great. And I hate to say that because you're good friends of mine, but I wish it hadn't had to happen. And I keep asking myself, did she have to die that way? Did she have to be brutally murdered? Same in Denise's case. If Kari had survived, I still had a promise to make.
Yep.
But I just don't think legislators would have paid attention if she was around.
Yep.
I just don't think they would have. Nathan, I don't know how much experience you had with walking around like in Capitol and the senators, and it's a different world.
It is
completely different world up there.
It is.
You have to do things in a different way. And I was told by one legislator that I didn't know the value of a life. And that story changed. I got a handwritten note apologizing for it, but I was told that and that's just the I don't know. That was one person. I can't say that's the way all of them think up there, but it's a different world.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question then, and this goes for the both of you, because it's something that I've wondered as well. You both have families, and you've got the children that were involved in all. What has the impact been on them in reference to, I guess, the impact that the both of you, really the impact of their stories are making on the community in general, but especially the public safety? Nathan, there was a conference that we were at, and I think it was the National NENA conference last year. And we were there, and I met your boys, and I met the rest of the family. What is it? I guess, what is it kind of like for them? Have you ever, I'm sure you have, so I shouldn't even say have you ever, but, kind of sat down and talked with them, and Hank, this goes for you as well. And just, what are their thoughts on the stories that these are, the impact, the power of these stories, and what you are doing, what their stories are doing for public safety?
Yeah. Well, the boys, with the way the media kind of covered this case, it was, especially early on, it was almost impossible to keep the boys secluded from it, and they learned a lot of the details of what happened to Denise pretty young, and a lot younger than I think they should have. My in-laws and us and my parents, we tried our hardest to keep them from watching TV, but there was a couple slip ups. I mean, one of the rules I always had from the beginning was not playing Denise's call. I didn't want, the only reason for that was because, well, two reasons. One, I didn't want the world to know Denise that way. I didn't want them to know her by screaming and crying like that. That wasn't who Denise was. But I also just didn't want the boys to be able to have easy access to being able to hear their mom like that. So, because they were 2 and 6 months old. I mean, they don't remember it. I mean, at least I didn't think they remembered it. I know my son Adam, who was 6 months old, obviously doesn't. But have found out recently with Noah being, turning 14 and maturing, and he's opened up a little bit about it. How he does have some memories, and he's working through it. I haven't sat them down and either they're not ready. Whenever I bring it up, I've asked Noah multiple times, is he ready? Does he want to sit down? Does he want to know, like, why do I travel around? Why do I do what I do? And he's not quite ready. So, but again, the boys have done a really good job of being resilient.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure Hank will say the same. It's just, that's probably one of the biggest miracles out of this whole thing, is just the fact that the boys are just normal kids. They're experiencing normal things that normal teenagers experience, and maybe a little bit more, but the void of their mom not being there was filled by a lot of family, a lot of friends. Now Tanya in my life she's been amazing. The boys love her to death. And, they're not unloved. They know they're loved, and it might even be worse. They might actually be a little too spoiled rotten. I'm not going to lie. Like, I know Hank probably feel, I mean, shoot, they're your grandkids. Yeah. Hank, that's your job as a grandfather, to spoil the crap out of your grandkids.
And I do it good too.
And trust me, Sue and Rick have done it. My parents have done it to the boys. And, but no, it's definitely had an impact on them. And I think a little more than obviously growing up without a mom's got to be one of the hardest things ever, but we'll see. But the boys, for everybody watching, I mean, if you ever got to meet him, like Ricardo, you got to meet him.
Yeah.
They're normal kids, and, Ryan Chambers, a good friend of ours. He's like their uncle, and, he knows them better than most people out there. And he says the same thing. I mean, they're two awesome kids that you wouldn't know anything happened to them, but, soon the day's coming. I'm not looking forward to it. But
and that's why I asked, because we met at that conference, and you were just coming out of one of the conference rooms, and I remember thinking then, right before you introduced all of us, wow, like I wonder how that is going. So that clears that up right there, and they are cool. I remember you introduced us and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?"
Yeah,
shake hands. I'm like,
they think they're really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noah is the typical, I don't care, I'm just gonna he's a Yankees fan, and no offense to all the Yankees fans out there, but I hate the Yankees. I'm a Rays fan. I'm a Buccaneers fan. Tom Brady, let's go. TB12, but the Cowboys suck. I just got to get that in there too.
I knew you were going.
But and he likes one of the Buck rivals, the Panthers. That's just how Noah is. He's got that personality. He's a jokester. He's just yeah. I'm hoping to get them on the road a little bit more. They've seen me speak a couple times. I just don't know how much they actually retained or listened. I try to, but I'm hoping to get them on the road a little bit more so they can see how big of a difference their mom has made. Yeah, get that out of here. So, yeah.
So what about you, Hank? How about your family, your granddaughter? I mean, the impact of Kari's story. I mean, you were all there. I've seen the pictures all over the place when you're there with the president and signing in the law, and the excitement, and then seeing all of you there at the reception, at the final reception, and everyone's talking, and I can see you all taking it in. And I guess, what has that been like, that portion of it, and any impact, on your granddaughter or, anybody else in the family?
Well, it's like I said, Kylie and Zane, they were real young,
mm-hmm.
and even now they're 9 and 10. They know a little bit about what we do. Brianna knows what we do.
Right.
Matter of fact, she was wanting to do this last week. She was wanting to come on and say hi to everybody last week, but things didn't work out for that, and she's not here tonight. But the best way to describe it is that her sisters. One sister, people are different, and one sister just wanted to accept it on her own terms and not be a part of it. The other two sisters, one really wanted to, but she can't, and the other one is just a blah, 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 blah all the time about it. Matter of fact, Lonnie did a radio podcast in Georgia a couple of weeks after it happened. And she was the first one, to really try to get it out there. But as far as Brianna, best way to describe it is that she's told the story in court, and that's it. She won't talk about it. She's already told the story. She did what she was supposed to, and that was probably the best day her and I've ever had. It's because we sat in a little room by ourselves all day long, and she went to testify. And when she did, my stomach bottom fell out of my stomach. Just feeling, I wanted to be there with her. I didn't want her to see him, and no one be there with their arm around her to be able to. And she was a trooper. She went in there. She took that stand. She raised her hand. She did what she was supposed to. They asked her to identify her father, and she pointed right there and said, "That's him." And she told the story. And after that, the judge says, "You're through. Thank you." She said, "Okay." And she came back to where I was and said, "I'm hungry." So whatever I do know, right after it happened, that next August, I believe it was, we all as a family, I think there was 19 of us, went to Disney, which is what Kari wanted to do. She wanted so much to take her kids to Disney. So the family got together and we took the kids to Disney. And there was in one of the suitcases that I had used to travel in was a photocopy of a picture of Kari with the telephone. I'm sure y'all have seen it. And I took it out so she wouldn't see it. I didn't want to mess up the vacation. I took it out and I watered it up and threw it in the trash can. The next morning, we went to wake the kids up to get them to go, and I noticed something under Brianna's pillow, and it was that picture had been unfolded and smoothed out, and she kept it under her pillow. So I know that she thinks about her all the time. She just won't talk about her. Now, when we were in Washington at the after party thing, after the signing and stuff, it was the 50th anniversary party that you said you were hefty chested, and when you had the picture taken, she did say to me, because the dispatchers took her away from us. I was scared several times because I couldn't find her, and she would walk around with a glass with the lemonade in it and the little twirler thing to try and join in with the rest of the group, I guess. But I finally found her at a table with a bunch of 911 dispatchers way off in the corner by the window. And I went over and I said, "Would you mind joining me, please?" And I took her back and she grabbed my arm. She goes, "I'm a rock star." And I said, "Okay, now wait, we're going to talk, because you are not a rock star. If you go out on stage, you play a guitar and sing a song and make $1 million, you're a rock star. Until then, you're Brianna." And that's the only time she has ever said anything like that. But she is interested, I think, in helping us to a certain extent. But she wants to get on with things. The promise came true, and like my wife just showed me, her view is like an arrow. She pulled it back and she went forward, and that's where she's going. So we don't force it. We don't bring it up. If she brings it up, then we elaborate. In the beginning, I asked her questions and she would answer them. However, if I'm telling the story or someone else is telling the story and she's within earshot, especially her younger brother and sister, she will correct them. She'll definitely jump in and correct. But we don't push it on her. She knows what's going on.
Right.
I try to tell the boys like little happy things, like a song comes on the radio, or hey, like the other night, a couple nights ago, we were at an ice cream place, Cold Stone, up in Sarasota, and we were right across the street from where we went on our first date. And so I like to point those things out, like, hey, that's where we took her, and Tanya is so supportive of that. Like, she wants pictures up of Denise, and she wants the boys to know their mom. And, but the one last thing I'll say, and I think it gets lost sometimes, is, Denise's siblings. Denise had a little brother and a little sister. And one of the coolest things about that is one, they're awesome, and they followed their dad's footsteps into public safety. And Tyler, her little brother, is a police officer. He works for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. And Amanda, her little sister, was a dispatcher in Sarasota County. And I think she's had a couple babies. I think she's transferred into records or something for the better hours. But they're, Denise was their older sister in The Rock, and I just know that I can't imagine how hard this has been on them. But the family stuck together, and but like Hank said, we don't force it on the boys. If they want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But it's just kind of at their pace.
Now we are
like you said, Nathan. It's I don't know where Ricardo went. I think he went to eat supper.
He's there.
Do you see him? I
see him.
I don't see him. Like you said, the song. There's one song that comes up, and I hear it played all the time, and it's a real popular song. But it's Kari sang that to them to put them to bed, and it's "You Are My Sunshine." And if you listen to the lyrics, her favorite song was that one, and what was that? Freebird. Freebird. And both of those are strong songs for me when it comes to knowing that they were Kari's favorites. But yeah, she sang "You Are My Sunshine" to the kids to put them to bed every night, and they remember. So when they hear that, then it comes up.
Now, as we go into the wrap up of this, there were some questions that we're unable to get into here because we're going into the end of this all. But I do want to read off these couple statements that came in, and one of them here says, "Not a question, but a statement. As a victim of crime and experiencing both sides of the 911 industry, I am thankful for people like both of you to take your tragedy and do such good things to turn it around." So that there a statement from the audience. And then for the wrap-up question here for this round 4 of the Dispatchers Roundtable, and I thank you both for coming on and sharing your story, and for everyone who has been on, whether you're on Facebook or on Crowdcast, and joining in to hear these powerful stories and to share some insight and ask questions and have them answer and all. This has been excellent. It has been great to have you on here. So for this one right here, it says, "First of all, proud to call you all three friends. I consider you both family now. I think it's very important to have both of these stories heard in every 911 center. How can others in the industry help spread the message?"
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just infectious behavior in the positive sense, right? I mean, I think there's so many challenges that this industry faces, and there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of complacency, and I think just trying to spread good, and just trying to remind everybody why they do this, and telling these stories, and just tugging at the heartstrings a little bit, just to make sure that people aren't losing sight and losing focus of what they're doing. So I think any time, I mean, I'm ashamed that I feel like I should know every detail about what happened to Kari. And honestly, tonight I learned a whole lot of things. And Hank and I have been friends for years now. And we got to tell the story. We got to keep telling the story. We got to get out there. And any way you can support the Kari Hunt Foundation, the Denise and Kari Foundation, we're both nonprofits. We want to continue to tell the story so that we can help 911 and help the people calling 911. So, just especially I remember what it was like to be where Hank is, just starting out and wondering what's next. And you got, Hank, you like in Florida, we got the bill passed in Florida. Okay. Yay. We have minimum training, but wait a minute, what do we do now? And you got the bill passed nationwide, but you know what? People still need to know what happened. They still need to understand, what the challenges are. And I think just, any way you can support either organization, and that would be great. But just tell the story, don't be afraid to tell it, and just, don't forget why you do it. That's really the main thing.
Nathan, I don't know if Ricardo's talking or not. I can't hear him or see him.
Oh, okay. Well, he just he just wanted, he was reading a comment that was talking about, how do we keep telling the story of making sure that dispatchers are aware of it. And so I was just trying to, kind of fill them in on just, hey, just anything you can do to help support a nonprofit always goes a long way. I don't know if you guys have had the ability to get this set up yet, but I know Amazon, like all these different ways out there to be philanthropic, like Amazon Smile, you can donate to nonprofits by buying stuff on Amazon. Amazon donates back to those nonprofits. Right. Little things like that go a long way. And I know you're probably in, desperate need of any help you guys can get to keep going. So
yeah, I'm not real smart on that kind of stuff. So we're lagging, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm on your board. I'm going to help you with that stuff. We're going to get there.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, I have added both links to your websites in the comments for here in Crowdcast as well as Facebook. And again, I want to thank you both very, very much for being on, and for everyone who is joining both on Facebook and Crowdcast to hear these powerful stories. Please make sure to check out both the Denise Amberly Foundation and the Kari Hunt Foundation to learn more about it, how you can help out, how you can share the story, and just do what you do. Keep doing what you do. Again, thank you both very much. I appreciate it more than you know. For those who are joining us for the Dispatchers Roundtable, next week, Wednesday, I believe it's the 17th, we will have round 5, and it's going to be with Brendan Sears, and he is out of Lake County, out of Illinois. He's also the founder of Humanize the Headset. He and his crew are going to be coming on at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk about a few different things. Round 1, his director, Kent, was on talking about COVID-19, the exposure that was there, and how they dealt with that. Well, now we're going to get the dispatcher side of it. Him and his crew are going to come on, and they're going to be talking about that and a few other things. And it is going to be an excellent episode. Make sure to check that out. If you have any comments, questions, you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that is going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/within-the-trenches-podcast. And you can also check us out on Patreon. That is patreon.com/WTTpodcast. This will be replayed immediately here on Crowdcast. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Facebook. And this will also go in on the podcast. So again, thank you all for joining in, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.